Confession of a man who got out of the game. Or thought he did. Palermo, Marseille, a small town in Portugal. 1987 to 2019, my name is Henry. Though I've only carried that name for 12 years. Before that there was another name. Before that there were several names, I changed them the way other people change jobs. Each new name meant a new place, a new start, a new attempt to become someone different. This last name, Henry, I chose myself. For the first time in my life I chose a name myself, not because someone told me, from now on you'll be called this. I just opened a list of Portuguese names at the library, read through several of them, and this one settled right. Henry. It sounds quiet. It sounds like a man without much of a story. I am 71 years old. I live in a small town in northern Portugal. I won't name it, you understand why. A modest house with a garden. A vegetable patch, tomatoes, peppers, some herbs. Every morning at 7 o'clock I walk to the square, buy a newspaper at the same kiosk, sit on the same bench, feed the pigeons. The kiosk owner knows me as Senor Henry, the man who always takes the same paper and never lingers to chat. Polite, quiet, slightly withdrawn. Probably a widower. Probably lonely. He doesn't know anything, nobody here knows anything. This is my life now. A silence I have been building for 12 years. A careful, deliberate silence, the way you build a house, brick by brick, unhurried, checking every joint. I want to tell you about this silence. Not about what came before it, not in detail, not with names and dates. I want to tell you what silence costs. What its real price is. Because from the outside it looks like peace. From the inside it looks like something else entirely. Let me begin with something you need to understand about people who did what I did. We were not monsters. I know how that sounds. But it is the truth I have to say, because without it nothing else will make sense. We were human beings. With mothers and fathers, with childhood memories, with things we liked and things we didn't. We could laugh. We could love, badly, not in the way that serves people well, but we could. We were people who made a certain choice at a certain moment in their lives, and that choice led them where it led. I grew up in Palermo. The Bolaro neighborhood, the market, narrow streets, the smell of fish and spices. My father worked the market stalls. My mother sewed. A family that wasn't wealthy but wasn't starving, ordinary, like thousands of others there. At 14 I started running small errands for men in the neighborhood. It wasn't recruitment like you see in movies, nobody showed up and said want to work for us. It was gradual. One step, then another. And at some point you looked back and realized the shore was already far away. I was 22 years old when I did the thing that made the shore disappear completely. I won't describe it. Not because I'm afraid, I stopped being afraid of confession a long time ago. I simply have nothing to lose in the way people usually mean. I won't describe it because there are people, families of people, who have no reason to hear the details from me. What I will say is this: after that I became a different person. Not immediately, not that same day. Gradually. The way a tree changes after lightning strikes it, still standing from the outside, still has leaves, but something inside is burned out forever. For the next 20 years I worked. Professionally. Cleanly. I was good at what I did. That sounds monstrous too, I understand, but a lie here would be worse than the truth. I was professional. I was not cruel in the sense people usually mean by that word. I took no pleasure in it. I completed assignments and received payment. It was work, and here is the most terrifying thing I want to tell you: it becomes work. Genuinely, work. With professional standards, with rules, with quality assessment. The human brain can turn anything into a job. That is its defense mechanism, converting the impossible into routine so that you can keep functioning. And you keep functioning. And the routine pulls you deeper. And at some point you realize you have lived 20 years and cannot remember a single day you could call your own. Every day belonged to the work. To the structure. To the people who gave the assignments. The desire to leave didn't arrive sharply. There was no single moment, no epiphany, no turning point. no scene like you'd see in a film. It was simply that in a certain year I turned 58 years old, and I was sitting alone in a hotel room in Marseille, a good hotel, expensive, with a view of the harbor, staring out the window. And I thought, what comes next, not in the sense of the next assignment. In the sense of what comes next at all. What will happen to this person I carry around inside this body in 10 years? In 20? Is there anything in his life that can be called living, not existing? But living, the answer was, no. That is when I began thinking about leaving. Walking away from a structure like mine is not submitting a resignation letter. It is not a conversation with a superior and 2 weeks' notice. It is a complex operation requiring preparation, patience, and a readiness for the possibility that it might not work. First rule, tell no one. Not a single person on the inside, ever. The desire to leave is information that makes you vulnerable immediately. People you tell about wanting out start thinking, what is he going to do after? What does he know? What risk does that create for us? These are not thoughts that are good for your health. Second rule, create distance gradually. Don't disappear sharply, disappear slowly. Fewer contacts. Less presence. A slow, almost imperceptible drift toward the periphery. You're still reachable, still performing, but less often, more slowly, with diminishing intensity. As though you're aging. Aging in our profession is socially acceptable. People stop fully counting on you. Third rule, money. For many years I had been setting cash aside. Not in banks, in cash, in several locations, in several countries. No digital connection to the past. This is the foundation of your new existence. Without it there is nowhere to go. Fourth rule, the new identity, long before the disappearance. Documents, history, habits. The person you will become must exist in advance. Must have a past. Good documents are not bought in a single night, they are constructed over years. I prepared for 4 years. Quietly, methodically, without rushing. Senior Henry came into being gradually, first as an idea, then as a set of documents, then as a person with a backstory, then as a person who one day simply appeared in a small Portuguese town and rented a house. The day I left was an ordinary Tuesday in April. I got up in the morning as usual. Drank my coffee. Walked out of the apartment in Marseille where I had been living for 3 years. Took what fit in a single bag. Left the keys on the table, got on a train. Not a plane means documents, documents mean a trail. Train, then bus, then another bus. 3 days later I was in Portugal. I thought the hardest part was behind me. I was wrong. Do you know what real paranoia is? Not the kind they show in films, jerky glances over the shoulder, sharp movements, constant motion. Real paranoia is quiet. It lives inside you like a chronic ringing in the ears. You wake up in the morning, and it is already there. You go to the market, it walks alongside you. You sit on a bench feeding pigeons, it sits beside you on that bench. Every unfamiliar face in town I analyze. Not deliberately, automatically, a reflex developed over 20 years of work. A new person on the square, who? From where? Why here? A car I haven't seen before at the neighbor's house, whose? A person whose gaze lingered on me a fraction too long, why? Most of these alarms are false. 99% of them. The new person on the square is a tourist or a new resident. The unfamiliar car belongs to someone visiting the neighbors. The lingering gaze is simply the unfocused stare of an unfocused person, but 1% might not be false. And that is precisely why the whole mechanism keeps running. Because you cannot switch off the check for 1% without switching it off completely. And switching it off completely means dying. I have lived with this for 12 years. I cannot form real friendships. This is the second great tax paid by a person in my situation. The neighbors know me as a quiet, polite old man. We exchange greetings. Sometimes talk about the weather and vegetable gardens. Closer than that is impossible. Closer means questions. Where are you from originally? Tell me about yourself. Did you have children? Why are you here alone? For each of these questions I have an answer, thought through, woven into the legend of Signor Henry. Born in northern Italy. Worked in construction. Wife died years ago. No children. Came to Portugal for a quieter life and better weather. All of it is a lie. A clean, internally consistent, safe lie. And every time I say it, which happens regularly, because people ask the ordinary human questions they ask, something inside me registers, another wall between myself and another person. Another brick in the prison I am building with my own hands. A prison without bars is still a prison. There is one person I speak to honestly. The priest at the local church, elderly, calm, the kind of man who knows how to listen without judgment. I go to confession. Not regularly, occasionally, when things become too heavy. He doesn't know everything. I don't give names or places, that would be reckless. But he knows the substance. He knows what I live with. Once I asked him directly, is it possible to receive forgiveness for something that seems beyond forgiving? He thought for a long time. Then said, carefully, the way you speak about things you are not entirely certain of, forgiveness doesn't come from me or from the church. It comes, or doesn't come, from inside. External forgiveness is words. Internal forgiveness is what you wake up to every morning. I wake up every morning to what I wake up to. Internal forgiveness is not something I have found. I am not certain it is possible, not because I don't deserve it, but because I don't know before whom to ask for it. The people I would need to ask it from are gone. And this is precisely what makes the weight impossible to put down. You cannot give it to anyone. It stays with you forever, yours, only yours, and of no use to anyone but you. This is what retirement means for a man in my situation. Not rest. Not peace. It is the longest sentence I have ever served, and the only one I imposed on myself. Every morning at 7 o'clock I walk to the square. Buy my newspaper. Sit on the bench. Feed the pigeons. The pigeons don't know whose hands these are. Sometimes it seems to me they are the only creatures in the world I can look at without a wall between us. It doesn't concern them, they don't care. I sit on the bench and think, so this is it. This is the quiet life I dreamed about in that hotel room in Marseille, looking out at the harbor. It exists. It is quiet, only the quiet isn't arranged the way I thought it would be. I thought quiet meant the absence of sound. Quiet is the absence of the right to be yourself. Those are different things. I understood this too late. Maybe that is the real punishment, not external, not from a court or from the people I once feared. But this, living long enough to understand everything. And having no way to change anything, the pigeons land. I scatter crumbs. The sun rises over the rooftops. Another day for Signor Henry, another day. This text is a work of psychological fiction in the confessional tradition. The narrator is a composite figure drawn from documented psychological research on individuals who have left criminal organizations, witness protection program case studies, and academic literature on moral injury and its long-term psychological effects. No specific crime is described or glorified. The purpose of this text is to explore the psychological cost of violence, not to romanticize it.